Hey everyone, this is my latest flip. I just wanted to show you all kind of the before. This looks like an old teacher's desk or something. I'm not sure how I got it from the back of a warehouse in Boulder, and we're gonna see what we can do with it.
Alright, first things first, I had to get these two broken feet off. I just used a hammer to pry them off. Next, I cut the other 2 feet off with a multi-tool. This was pretty stupid on my part as I didn't wear any safety glasses and I should have. Next, I pulled out the riding slides and noticed there was a bunch of tape and stickers on them, so I pulled out a heat gun and just used that to help remove all of it. This particular sticker was more difficult though, so I ended up needing to use a scraper combined with the heat gun to get that fully removed. Next, I just had to clean the whole piece off. I used compressed air to get a lot of stuff out from within the drawers, and then I vacuumed everything I could. Then I took a TSP cleaner and just scrubbed the whole desk down, but I'll fast forward through that part. Next, it was time to make the new feet. I just used my table saw to cut down a 2x2 to blocks that were about 1.25 inches long, which matched the old feet. I had already marked the center on these legs, so I'm just pre-tapping them before I start drilling. And then following through with the drill to make the holes for some dowels. Next, I got my dowels all glued up and used a mallet to hammer those in, and then used the multi-tool to cut them off at the length I needed. One of the legs was splitting when I got the dowel in there, so I got a clamp on there to make sure everything glues back together. Next, I needed to glue up the blocks. They had matching holes, and I just got a mallet to tap those into place. Then for the clamping force for the feet, I just put the desk down on its feet. I did have to take these 2 off and then reattach them after. The edges of this desk were really beat up, so rather than sanding, I just used a router to give it a chamfered edge all the way around the top. This way I didn't have any uneven sanding spots if I tried to do it with a sander. After some cleanup, I did a thorough sanding with a 120 grit sandpaper on the top of the desk. This really helped me assess the damage that was going on up here and seeing what all could be removed. And here is what I was left with. It's quite damaged, stained. It's hard to see, but there is a lot of dents and dings as well. So with that, it was time to mix up some Bondo, and I had a lot of filling to do. Next, I really wanted to get rid of these handles that just scream classic, we'll call it. Unfortunately, it caused some damage on the veneer when I was pulling these off because they were glued on top of being screwed on. So I just used some Bondo to fill in all the ripped off veneer portions. Once all the Bondo dried, I just came back around with the sander and made sure to sand all of it back down before I moved on to the rest of the desk. I also used an aggressive 80 grit sandpaper to shape the feet to match flush with the legs. And the legs were also damaged, so I took a router to the edge of those for another chamfered edge. The imperfect feet I made did have some gaps around the seams, so I got that filled in with some Bondo as well. Then I sanded it down once it was dry and made sure it was all flush. Another step I did was do a chamfered edge on the bottom of the feet just to give it a better look. I saw this tip in a video a while back and wanted to give it a shot. Then I just flipped it over and repeated all these steps on the other 2 legs. And this is to give you an idea what they look like before paint.
Hey everyone, just taking a quick pause here because I went to go start cleaning out these drawers, and when I was cleaning out, especially this big one, I stuck my head in there and it just smelled pretty bad. I mean, it smells like very old wood. I'm sure a lot of you know the smell, but I'm gonna try a couple tricks here to make it not smell. And the first one I'm gonna try here is just using some isopropyl alcohol I have in the spray bottle. Hopefully this will kill some of the stuff that's causing the smell, and then we'll go to some other methods if that doesn't work. All right, I'll let the alcohol sit overnight and dry, and there's still a little bit of a smell, so I'm gonna hit it with some vinegar and water, and I'm gonna let that sit for a while, and then I'm gonna scrub them down.
In the end, I decided to seal them all just to ensure that we didn't have any of that smell left over. This was using polyacrylic on the inside and outside of the drawers. I then sanded down all the sides of the drawers just to make them smooth again, make sure everything would slide properly, and then masked them up to get ready for spraying. Alright, first layer was laying down a primer. When I sprayed this, I noticed that the wood grain was showing through, which I needed to seal. I didn't have any official grain sealer, but I did have joint compound, so I watered that down and then used that to smear it all over all the affected parts of the desk that the grain was showing, which was about 90% of it really. Every drawer, the top, and all the 3 outer sides, and 2 of the 3 inner sides I had coated. Once it was all dry, I just had to come back through and sand everything back down. I then resprayed it to see if there was any other issues, and sadly I did find an issue with the veneer. I figured the easiest solution was for me to peel up the unglued portions and then fill that in with Bondo. A little later I found another spot and did the same process before I started rolling on the primer this time. I switched to a roller to get thicker coats so I could get a more level surface, and I did about 3 coats to get everything nice and level. The roller does leave behind a texture, so to get this smooth I did some wet sanding with a sanding sponge.
Alright, finally after several coats of primer, lots of filling, and a lot of sanding, I think I'm finally ready to start painting this and start spraying, so let's get to it.
Not before another cleaning session though. Then I just masked the bottom side of the desk. I didn't go all the way to the bottom because it shouldn't overspray that much. I then proceeded with the main color for the top. I did 2 or 3 coats on the top. Once that was dry, I masked the top and then used a paintable caulk to go around the seams of the desk to just fill in any gaps. Moving on to spraying the bottom portion. This is just with an off-white color to give it that contrast. The foot space was a really odd place to spray, and I did 3 coats of this color as well. With all the masking off, I sanded down some imperfections before spraying it in a clear coat. And I'm not sure if you can tell in the video, but I went way too heavy on the top in the middle. Because of that, I had to sand through a bunch of cracks that had formed throughout the entire top of the desk.
I wanted to do a quick PSA just to talk about another mess up I did. Turns out that anytime I seem to spray clear coat, I go a bit too heavy, and that's been creating a lot of issues for me, especially since I do clear coat on both painted surfaces and bare wood surfaces. It acts very differently when you're painting it on top of a wood surface because of the porous nature of the wood. for whatever reason, it doesn't have the same problems when spraying on wood as it does when you're on a painted surface. And I'm learning that far too late, it feels like. But what happened on this piece is I went too heavy over a painted surface like this. And what that does is create all these little cracks. And in order to fix this, since this is, you know, the main showpiece of this desk, I have sanded it all back down. I sanded through all the cracks, and essentially we're just going to recoat it in some black. And this time we're going to just do everything very thin, allow proper dry time. And especially with the clear coat, we want to make sure that that is sprayed on very thin because it tends to shrink as it dries. And this is what pulls and causes those cracks and crevices, making it look like a dried mud field essentially. So everything's smoothed down again, everything's clean, prepped for a respray, so let's get to it.
Before I jump into that though, I got the top pretty wet, so I moved to attaching the hardware while that dries. Behind me, you can really see how much I had to sand this down. Ultimately, I think it was a blessing in the end because I don't think I could have gotten a more perfect finish on the top if I didn't go through all this. I redid the clear coat on top a few times to make sure I got a consistent layer and a good finish. The lock hole on the center drawer was real beat up, so I ended up filling it in and drilling a new hole before getting a replacement lock fitted in there. I then lined all the insides of the drawers. This is probably one of my least favorite steps, to be honest, but it makes a big difference when you have damage or stains to cover up. Before reinserting the drawers, I gave them all a coat of Howard feeding wax, both inside and out. The riding slides needed new stoppers, so I took some dowels, got those in there with some wood glue and tapped them in with a mallet.
Hey everyone, I just wanted to pause real quick and show you something I thought was really cool with this desk. And actually, both the desks I have that I've currently got to flip had the same mechanism, but I'd never seen it before, so I just wanted to show it, and I thought it was really cool. Maybe you will too. So let's check it out. Alright, so we got the desk here. All the drawers are out. This will help show everything a bit better. We get the heater under there. That just kind of helps keep the top warm so I can dry those finishes better. But the important piece is down here. There are these, actually let me move this. Okay, so down here there are these spring-loaded levers on both sides. And behind the drawers are these bars, again on both sides. So when this drawer goes in, it's going to push those levers and when it pushes those down, these bars raise, have these hooks on the back of them, and so when that bar raises, it locks them in place.
Last step here is getting a catch plate installed for the lock. And finally, the big reveal. This is the finished desk with some light staging. We have cracked pepper on top and a blank canvas color on the bottom. I really love how this turned out. It's really unrecognizable from when it started.
All right, well that is the end of this one. I just want to thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and hope you enjoyed joining me for this process. Let me know what you think in the comments and what you'd like to see next. And be sure to like and subscribe because it really helps me grow this channel and get more content like this for you all. Thank you all, and we'll see you in the next one.